During a lunch meeting with her American colleague, Dr. Emily Chen watched with curiosity as he ordered a meal accompanied by multiple sugary beverages and desserts loaded with refined sugar. When she gently remarked, "That's not very good for your health," he smiled knowingly and replied, "I know, but it's good for my taste buds." This candid admission encapsulates humanity's complicated relationship with sugar. We understand its potential harm, yet we continue to indulge in its seductive sweetness. This ubiquitous ingredient enhances countless foods in our daily diet, from the caramelized edges of sweet and sour pork to the comforting sweetness of ice cream. Sugar transforms ordinary flavors into extraordinary taste experiences. Our innate preference for sweetness, evolutionarily designed to guide us toward calorie-dense foods in times of scarcity, now works against us in an environment where sugar is abundant and inexpensive. The human brain responds to sugar in ways remarkably similar to addictive substances, explains Dr. Chen, a specialist in nutritional medicine. It triggers dopamine release in the reward centers, creating pleasure patterns that reinforce consumption regardless of our intellectual understanding of its consequences. Today's average American consumes approximately 7 to 7 grams of sugar daily, nearly triple the recommended maximum intake suggested by health authorities. This excessive consumption has profound implications for our health that extend far beyond the commonly recognized risks. The diabetes connection: how sugar overwhelms your metabolism. The most recognized health consequence of excessive sugar consumption is its relationship with type 2 diabetes. This metabolic disorder, characterized by elevated blood glucose levels and insulin resistance, affects over 34 million Americans and hundreds of millions worldwide. Its prevalence has increased dramatically in parallel with rising sugar consumption, particularly from processed foods and beverages. When we consume sugar, whether table sugar, sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, or natural sweeteners, it rapidly enters our bloodstream, causing blood glucose levels to spike. In response, the pancreas releases insulin, a hormone that signals cells throughout the body to absorb this glucose for energy or storage. This elegant system maintains blood sugar within a narrow, healthy range under normal circumstances. The problem develops when we consistently overwhelm this regulatory mechanism with frequent sugar consumption. Dr. Chen explains, once cells are repeatedly exposed to high levels of insulin, they gradually become less responsive to its signals, a condition known as insulin resistance. As insulin resistance progresses, the pancreas compensates by producing more insulin to maintain normal blood glucose levels. Eventually, the pancreatic beta cells responsible for insulin production become exhausted, unable to keep pace with demand. The result is chronically elevated blood glucose, the hallmark of type 2 diabetes, and a cascade of associated health complications. Beyond diabetes, sugar's role in weight management, perhaps equally concerning, is sugar's profound impact on body weight regulation. Unlike nutrients that provide satiety signals to the brain, sugar delivers calories without triggering the same fullness mechanisms. This nutritional paradox, high in energy yet low in satiety, creates the perfect conditions for overconsumption. Sugar represents what nutritionists call empty calories, notes Dr. Chen. It provides energy in the form of calories but offers virtually no nutritional value, no vitamins, minerals, protein, or fiber. Essentially, it takes up valuable space in our diet without contributing to our nutritional needs. The relationship between sugar and obesity operates through multiple mechanisms. First, fructose, a component of both table sugar and high fructose corn syrup, is primarily metabolized in the liver, where it readily converts to fat when consumed in excess. This process contributes to both visceral fat accumulation and fatty liver disease, conditions strongly associated with metabolic syndrome. Furthermore, research indicates that sugar-sweetened beverages fail to trigger the same compensatory decrease in food intake that would normally occur with solid food of equivalent caloric value. A person who drinks a sugary beverage before or with a meal typically doesn't reduce their food intake to compensate for those liquid calories. The appetite amplifier: how sugar makes you hungrier. Beyond its direct caloric contribution, sugar influences hormonal signals that regulate hunger and satiety in ways that promote overconsumption. Studies have demonstrated that high sugar intake disrupts the balance of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, and leptin, the satiety hormone, potentially leading to increased appetite and reduced feelings of fullness. What makes sugar particularly problematic for weight management is its effect on subsequent food choices, explains Dr. Chen. Contrary to what we might expect, consuming sugar doesn't satisfy our hunger, it often intensifies it. Research from Yale University demonstrated that glucose spikes followed by rapid drops in blood sugar levels, a common pattern after consuming refined sugars, activate brain regions associated with craving and reward. This neurological response drives continued eating, particularly of carbohydrate-rich foods, creating a cycle of consumption that's difficult to break. The timing of sugar consumption also matters significantly. When consumed alone, particularly in liquid form, sugar causes rapid blood glucose fluctuations that can trigger hunger shortly after consumption. This explains why a sugar-sweetened beverage often leaves you hungrier than before you consumed it. Your body experiences a brief energy surge followed by a crash that stimulates appetite. Blood lipids and cardiovascular health. The sweet heart risk one of sugar's less recognized but equally significant impacts involves its effect on blood lipid profiles and cardiovascular health. While conventional wisdom once focused exclusively on dietary fat as the primary culprit in heart disease, emerging research has highlighted sugar's substantial contribution to cardiovascular risk. When we consume excess sugar, particularly fructose, our liver converts it to fat through a process called de novo lipogenesis. Dr. Chen explains, this not only contributes to fatty liver disease but also increases triglyceride levels in the bloodstream. Elevated triglycerides represent a significant risk factor for cardiovascular disease, particularly when accompanied by low HDL, beneficial cholesterol, and small, dense LDL particles, precisely the pattern associated with high sugar consumption. This lipid profile, characteristic of metabolic syndrome, significantly elevates heart disease risk even when total cholesterol levels appear normal. A landmark study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found that individuals who obtained 25% or more of their calories from added sugar had more than double the risk of dying from heart disease compared to those whose diets contained less than 10% added sugar. This association remains significant even after accounting for other cardiovascular risk factors, suggesting sugar's independent contribution to heart disease. The aging accelerator, glycation and cellular damage. Perhaps the most cosmetically concerning aspect of sugar consumption involves its role in accelerated aging, both internally and visibly on the skin. This process occurs through a mechanism called glycation, where sugar molecules bind to proteins in the absence of enzymatic control, forming what scientists call advanced glycation end products, AGEs. These aptly named AGEs contribute to aging throughout the body, explains Dr. Chen. One sugar molecules attached to proteins like collagen and elastin, the structural components that give skin its plumpness and elasticity. They create crosslinks that make these proteins stiff and malformed. The visible results include increased wrinkling, loss of skin elasticity, and a dull complexion. This process affects not just facial appearance but structural proteins throughout the body, including those in blood vessels, organs, and joints. The accumulation of AGEs contributes to many age-related conditions, from atherosclerosis to arthritis. The glycation process becomes particularly problematic when we consume foods that combine both sugar and protein at high temperatures, precisely the conditions found in many popular cooking methods. Caramelized, grilled, or fried foods containing both sugar and protein, like barbecue sauces on meat or sweet glazes on protein, generate exceptionally high levels of AGEs. Food processing and hidden sugars, the stealth sweetener. Reducing sugar intake presents a challenge beyond simply avoiding obviously sweet foods. Modern food processing has incorporated sugar into products where consumers wouldn't expect to find it, including tomato sauce and ketchups, often containing more sugar per serving than cookies. Salad dressings, particularly low-fat varieties that replace fat with sugar. Bread and savory crackers. Yogurt's many flavored varieties contain more sugar than ice cream. Pasta sauces and canned soups. Granola and energy bars marketed as options. Food manufacturers understand sugar's powerful appeal and use it liberally to enhance palatability and drive consumption, notes Dr. Chen. This hidden sugar accounts for a substantial portion of our total intake, often without our awareness. The food industry utilizes over 60 different names for sugar on ingredient labels, including seemingly benign terms like evaporated cane juice, fruit concentrate, or barley malt. This naming diversity makes label reading challenging even for health-conscious consumers attempting to monitor their intake. Most concerning is sugar's presence in foods marketed specifically for children. The average children's breakfast cereal contains approximately 12 grams of sugar per serving, often more than 30% of its total weight. This early exposure shapes taste preferences and establishes consumption patterns that may last a lifetime. Breaking the sweet addiction, practical alternatives. Despite sugar's powerful grip on our taste preferences, reducing consumption doesn't necessitate a life of culinary deprivation. The human palate demonstrates remarkable adaptability when given time to adjust to lower sweetness levels. Many former sugar enthusiasts report that after several weeks of reduced intake, previously enjoyed sweet foods begin to taste excessively sweet and even unpleasant. The goal isn't necessarily complete elimination but rather recalibration, suggests Chen. We can train ourselves to appreciate natural sweetness in whole foods while reserving concentrated sweets for occasional enjoyment rather than daily consumption. Practical alternatives to refined sugar include fruit. Whole fruits contain natural sugars but deliver them packaged with fiber, which slows absorption and prevents blood sugar spikes. Additionally, fruits provide valuable nutrients that support overall health. Spices cinnamon, vanilla, cardamom, and nutmeg can enhance perceived sweetness without adding sugar. These spices not only replace sweetness, but often contribute beneficial compounds of their own. Gradual reduction, systematically reducing sugar in recipes over time, decreasing by 25% initially, then gradually continuing, allows taste preferences to adapt without triggering rejection. Alternative sweeteners, while not perfect solutions, natural sweeteners like monk fruit and stevia provide sweetness without calories or blood sugar impact when used moderately. Restoring balance, a moderate approach to sweetness. The evidence against excessive sugar consumption presents a compelling case for moderation, but this doesn't require puritanical abstinence. Traditional cuisines worldwide have incorporated sweet elements for centuries without generating today's epidemic of metabolic disease. The difference lies in context, quantity, and frequency. In many traditional food cultures, sweetness was reserved primarily for special occasions, celebrations, festivals, and ceremonial meals, explains Dr. Chen. Sugar was a luxury ingredient used sparingly as flavor accent rather than a dietary staple. This historical perspective suggests a potential framework for healthier incorporation of sweetness, treating concentrated sweeteners as condiments rather than staples. Just as we wouldn't consume a cup of salt or several tablespoons of hot sauce in a sitting, we might approach sugar with similar restraint. The American Heart Association recommends limiting added sugar to 25 grams 6 teaspoons daily for women and 36 grams 9 teaspoons for men. Achieving these targets typically requires conscious effort in our current food environment, but becomes more manageable with increased awareness and intentional choices. Conclusion: reclaiming control over sweetness. Our relationship with sugar reflects broader tensions between evolutionary preferences and modern health needs. Our bodies, designed for environments of scarcity, remain programmed to seek and enjoy sweetness, a once reliable indicator of safe, energy-dense food. Today, this biological preference operates in an environment of unprecedented abundance, requiring conscious regulation. Understanding sugar's effects doesn't mean eliminating all pleasure from eating, emphasizes Dr. Rather, it allows us to make informed choices about when and how we include sweetness in our diet, enhancing our long-term enjoyment of both food and health. By recognizing sugar's various impacts, from metabolic effects to aging acceleration, we gain perspective that supports more balanced consumption. The goal isn't deprivation but recalibration, restoring sweetness to its proper place as an occasional pleasure rather than a dietary cornerstone. As with many aspects of modern nutrition, awareness represents the first and most powerful step toward positive change. Simply understanding sugar's ubiquity in processed foods and its multiple effects on health enables more informed choices that honor both the pleasure of sweetness and the body's need for metabolic harmony.